Hello there. Welcome to episode 15 of Little Big Knits. My name is Selma. I'm your host, and this is a podcast about knitting, mostly. And today I'm here with some knitting to share with you. It's Saturday, I think the 23rd or 24th of March, something like that. And I just wanted to check in again because I had some stuff to share and I didn't want to wait. So here I am. So I hope you're doing okay. I hope this podcast finds you well. I'm here and I say, hello, lovelies. So yeah, it's been a couple of weeks since I last podcasted, and I thought, yeah, I wanted to check in because I finished the Arwen sweater and I wanted to share a little bit about my experience regarding that. I also wanted to share a little bit about, I've been looking into my stash and looking at summer fibers, getting ready for the upcoming summer fibers CAL that we're going to have. And also, I wanted to share a little bit about what's been going on around here because we've had some fun times, and I thought I would share a bit of footage from the things that we've been doing. So hello, grab yourself a cup of tea, grab your craft of choice for the day, and join me. So yeah, I just realized I put my notes like way over there. I'm actually sitting at the piano today, and I've got behind me the shawl that I shared with you, I think last time, the COTTAGE by Madeleine WINDSOR, and it has now been published and is live on Ravelry. And she's also talked about it on Instagram. She's Kingfisher Knits on Instagram in case you wanted to check her out there and find out any information. And behind it is on, of course, the driftwood tree, is my exploration station, which I made about a year and a half ago, and I just love those two shawls. And I put them there after the last podcast just to see the size of them, actually, because I really didn't want to compare, and the COTTAGE really is bigger than my exploration station, and I felt like they looked so sea-like, so I left them there for a little bit, and then I put them back up today as a backdrop for the podcast. So yeah, so anyway, that shawl is out if you are so inclined and feel like knitting it. And today I am drinking my favorite Ahmed tea, Ahmed of London, I think it's called, and it's their cardamom tea that I so often drink, although I don't think I've had it on the last couple of podcasts, but it's here today. So thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you if you're new for checking me out, and I hope you'll enjoy it, and thank you so much for coming back. If you're coming back to see more, that's awesome. I'm very, very pleased with the comments and feedback I get from people, so thank you very much. And I just really appreciate how this community is kind of building. It's really fun. We are wrapping up the Garments Galore CAL that I have been co-hosting with Kate of Hawthorne Cottage Craft, and that is coming to an end on the last day of March, and as I mentioned last time, I'll probably close the thread on the morning of April 1st because I'm unlikely to be up until midnight, although it is the weekend, so you never know. Anyway, but it'll be closed somewhere between midnight and early morning on April 1st. And we've had such success with this CAL. It's been, and why I say success, I just feel like the people who've joined in have really gotten into it, and people have knit multiple sweaters. Some people have, and some people have knit their first sweater or finally finished something that had been on the needles for a long time. So it's been really fun, and the conversation's been great, and it's been nice getting to know people who've been involved. So it's really fun. So yeah, so that's wrapping up. Later on, I'll talk a little bit more about the Summer Fibers CAL that will be starting on April 1st because I'm going to show you some of my summer fibers. So I think that's about it. So for administrative stuff, we will continue talking. So I'm wearing the Arwen. The Arwen is a sweater that I have been knitting on for a while. Actually, this took me kind of longer than usual to finish, and I think partly because I ended up using 1,600 yards pretty much for this project. So if you were going to enter this into the Garment Galore Cal, you could put it in the regular FO thread, and you could put it in the Mount Everest thread. I keep wanting to call it the Mammoth sweater thread. I don't know why, but the Mount Everest thread in Kate's podcast as well. So anyway, I ended up using pretty much almost the entire 4 skeins of Malabrigo sock that I used for this sweater. This was a sweater, as I said, called Arwen by Isabel Kramer that she came out with not too long ago. And when I saw her being interviewed on the Fruity Knitting podcast, I was just like, yeah, no, I've been eyeing that sweater and that's it. And so I knew I wanted to use up this yarn, and that was that. It's been a very enjoyable knitting experience. I very much like the neckline. I was a little concerned that it was going to be too closed, but I think it's just great. There was a little bit of short row shaping on the back. It's a top down, sort of yoke construction with these lace and all these baubles that are on the sweater. And the yarn, as I said, is the Malabrigo sock. So this was a very enjoyable experience, although I have to admit that by the time I was on the second, even partway through the first sleeve, I just wanted to get this darn thing done because it was 1,600 yards. There was a lot going on, and it was just like, it's beautiful yarn. It's purple. It's lovely to look at, but I was ready to be finished. So I was very happy when I finally finished it. Knitting with Malabrigo sock is a dream. It's a lovely, lovely yarn to work with. And I've made one other sweater out of it, but I haven't worn that sweater that much because it was not a huge success. It's kind of an oddly shaped sweater. It's the Turmeric by Vera Välimäki, and it's got this, like, you continue increasing, so you end up with like a lot of fabric in the front, and it's not fabulous for my figure, I gotta say. I don't know, just somehow the way it hangs isn't great. So I can't tell you exactly how Malabrigo sock will wear with time yet, but I'll hope to tell you with this one. I feel like I've made something else, but it's just not coming to me right now. So anyway, now how do I feel about this final object? I'm slightly disappointed. Okay, so first I'm going to tell you that while I was knitting it, and I think I mentioned this last time, I felt that the yarn might have a little bit too much contrasting tonal for the lace work, and I think it does. That didn't bother me so much, really, because I just thought that's okay. It still adds a lovely texture. When I finished knitting the sweater, I tried it on, and I very much liked the fit. And then I went and I put the sweater in water. The color was nicely fast. There was just a tiny bit of purple in the water, but very little. And I laid it on the rack as I normally would to dry a sweater, and it has stretched a lot. So I thought, isn't this hilarious? Just last episode I was talking about never having had the experience of something stretching in superwash, and here I was having that experience. So, the sleeves, for example, I had them finishing around here, and so they're about 2 inches too long, and the torso stretched by at least 2 or 3 inches as well. So while I was kind of hoping for a project that was sort of loose more horizontally, it kind of has gotten more vertical. It still looks fine, it's lovely, but I'm a little bit disappointed with that. Now, I am thinking about trying to wash it in a different way and see what happens. So I'm thinking about putting in the machine on the delicate cycle and seeing what kind of an impact that has on it. I did that actually with the sweater that I was wearing last time, the On the Grass by Joji Locatelli. If you were watching last time, it was a boat neck out of Malabrigo Arroyo, and I was complaining that it had shrunk a tiny bit. So I realized afterwards that I had actually put that in the washing machine on the delicate cycle, and it had shrunk a tiny bit. After the podcast, I decided to wash it because it was actually kind of in need of wash. And I washed it by hand, and it actually stretched out a little bit. So the sleeves had gotten a little shorter and they had actually stretched a little bit. So I figure I'm going to do the opposite with this one. I'm going to put this in the machine on the delicate wash and we'll see what happens. I'll report back. So that's it for FOs. Other than that, I was able to finish the first sock of it just feels like these are going to go on forever and ever, so I'll just check in quick. I finished these, and I'll insert a picture here with blockers because once again I forgot the blockers. I actually had the sock on a blocker, but I'll insert a picture. But these are the first star socks by Jessica Gore. There's a close-up. And the yarn is Woolen Vine, Enjoy the Silence on her Blitz Space. So I don't know if you can see, but there is some gold stellina in there. And it's such a delight. Even though these socks are going kind of slowly, I'm enjoying every single stitch. Well, almost every single stitch. I'm not a huge fan of the wrap rows. The wrap rows are kind of tedious, but I'm getting used to them. And I've started the second. So there we go. So it's been a wonderful experience, and I'll just insert a picture here while I'm talking. To knit with this yarn, I've really enjoyed it so far. The colors just, there's so many beautiful colors in this yarn, and the pattern has been a pleasure to knit as well, except for the wrap rows, as I said. Don't love those, but the rest of it it's easy. That sock is actually really snug. And as I said last time too, but I'm quite confident that it's going to loosen up with time and be easier to put on, as has happened with another pair. This is being housed in this bag by Lowland Originals, who has a store on Etsy, and Renee Lutias, I think is her name, and I really enjoyed her work a lot. She has great fabric choices and really nice bags. And so I haven't really cast on anything new. I have been swatching, however. I showed you guys last time the Crooked Kitchen mohair that I had gotten, and here it is in her, I think it's called her Kidmo Silk or something, her base, and this is a 70% mohair, 30% silk, and this is her Nanny's Linen colorway, this very, very subtle pearly colorway. And I had shown you the skein of the fondant fiber lace. And I had also shown you a skein of the Wales Street yarns in kind of it's the colorway called Blush, and it was sort of a pinky. So I decided to swatch with both and see what happened. So first I swatched with these two, and these two, it's like a match made in heaven. They're really such similarities. And so I have to say, I ended up preferring the swatch with this because with the Wales Street, I love the pink, but this turned it kind of into a flesh tone. And so when I put it against me, I just thought, I can't see myself wearing that. I could see myself wearing the pink, but not when it's muted a little bit with this color here. So I decided to go forward and make something with this. I'm not 100% decided, but I'm 90% decided that I'm going to be making this pattern here, which is called Tender, and it's by a woman named Maanel, M-A-A-N-E-L, on Ravelry, and she's got wonderful free patterns. And I've been admiring this one for quite a while, and I thought, this could be good. I made a decision over a couple of different patterns, and that's the one I think has won out. Now, I haven't tried doing it yet. The only thing I've done, I actually even took it off the needles, the only thing I've done is swatched. So I did first a little bit of just plain stocking knit, which I just loved. And then I did a bit of ribbing with some eyelets going through it, which I wasn't super thrilled with. And then I did some, I wasn't thrilled with the look of it, I mean. And then I did some, like some regular lace. This was actually the same lace pattern that was in the Coilheen, and I just tried it on this pattern. and I quite like that. What I actually liked the most was the stockinette. And I just thought, I just want something simple. But knitting a huge stockinette scarf, I thought, is going to be really, really boring. Although I think I would really love it. And I think it'll just be a really nice, delicate pink thing. But I'm going to cast this on and see how it goes. And if it turns out that I'm like, no, I just want plain stockinette, then so be it. I will do that. So I haven't quite looked at the pattern to even see how many stitches it casts on or anything. This was knit on 4.5 millimeter needles, and that was with, you know, one strand of the lace weight and one strand of the mohair, and I really like it for the stockinette. I didn't like it for the garter. It was just a little too loose, but that's neither here nor there at this point because I'm not going to be doing garter. So yeah, so hopefully next time I podcast, there'll actually be, this will be cast on because I'm kind of excited about it. I'm also wanting to continue the Sundottir sweater, which was a colorwork sweater in yellow and cream that I had started just before this, but then I got distracted by this. So I'll be getting back to that as well. And so hopefully next time I podcast, there'll be some interesting stuff on its way to becoming a finished object. But that is really all the knitting that I have for you this week and that I've been doing for myself. It's been a busy week, so I haven't had a whole lot of time to knit, although I have had to accompany my mother to some appointments, so sock knitting got done at those, which was great, and actually this got done, the sleeves got close to finished on at one appointment that went on for quite a while, so I was able to get quite a bit of knitting in. So there you go. So I'm going to move on to talking about summer fibers. So as I mentioned last time, we're going to start a summer fibers cowl, and there's been a lot of enthusiasm, so that's great. Now this summer fibers cowl is meant to be, as I said last time, using summer fibers, so plant-based fibers is what it really is. So it could be anything that has plant fibers in it. So nylon doesn't count because that is man-made. Silk doesn't count because it's actually made from animal. But any sort of viscose, ramie, bamboo, linen, cotton, nettle, hemp, any of those can work. And the yarn should have a minimum of 45% of plant-based fibers. So it could be a combination of plant-based fibers plus wool, but it has to be a minimum of 45% to make it really a summer yarn. So actually the Sundottir that I'm knitting, which I'll show the next time, is made out of a hemp wool, but I think it's only 30% hemp, so that one wouldn't count for the cowl. I am going to finish it though because I don't want it to sit around. So I thought, oh, I gotta see, what do I have? I've got some wonderful summer yarns. What do I have? So I pulled out a whole bunch and I thought I'd share what I have and some of the thoughts I have. Now the cowl, back to the cowl for a moment, it doesn't have to be a garment. You just have to use a minimum of 50 grams. So if it's 50 grams of DK, that might be a hat worth, or but there could be a hat, it could be a table runner. Summer fibers are wonderful for crochet, for example, and so any fiber craft is acceptable in terms of I'm going to say using a needle, a hook, or a loom. If you want to weave something, that's fine too. So yeah, as long as it uses a minimum of 50 grams, and I so look forward to what people are going to do. I know a lot of people are on a garment kick still along with me, but it really doesn't have to be. And in fact, I pulled out a couple of yarns that I've gotten in the past. Sorry, I can feel my throat doing the frog thing, so I thought I better thwart that frog. Anyway, I have a couple of yarns here that I got specifically not to make garments, but to do other things with. And we'll see if that's what ends up happening. And one of them is way over there. Anyway, I'll show you one of them. The other one was some sort of a cotton, mercerized cotton that I got in gray and green, and I wanted to make a crocheted bag out of. So we'll see if that happens. This I had gotten on sale at Wool Time here in Ottawa, and it's called SPIGHETTA DELAVE. It's an Italian yarn, and it's 100% cotton, and it's kind of hand dyed, and it's sort of this tape type of yarn. And this, I believe it's Italian, it's certainly got an Italian name, and it's by Fibres. I had bought this actually thinking about making pillows for our sofa. Our sofa is gray, and I thought that could be kind of nice. I've since kind of wondered, do I want gray pillows on a gray sofa? I don't know. But I think I'm going to swatch it, and I actually thought this could be nice as just a little top as well. And I've been wanting to make a second flax by Heidi Kiermaier, I believe, that I made last summer. In one of my earlier episodes, I showed it to you. And so I thought I might swatch with this, or just a simple top, or it'll become pillows for something other than my sofa. We'll see. But that's one summer fiber. I have other ones here. Of course, I mentioned last time that I got a sweater's worth of the HOLST GARN Coast, which is a 55 lamb's wool, 45 cotton. And this is the HARBOUR colorway, and it's this sort of really nice denim that I had been thinking about making the Donner sweater. I've since kind of been changing my mind, and I have other ideas, so we'll see what ends up happening. Now, I have more summer yarn than I have time for this summer, so some of this stuff will end up waiting till next year. So we'll see what I get to this year. I also have this yarn that I'm extremely intrigued by. This is a Berrocco yarn called MYKONOS, and it is a 66% linen, 8% nylon, 26% nylon and 8% cotton. So a little over 70% summer plant fibers. And it's just got this very interesting texture. I don't know if you can see that. It's kind of stringy and metallic-y. And it says that it's DK, but it's sort of somewhere between a DK and a sport. And so I'm very intrigued by this. And I have a pattern by Justyna Lorkowska called Este that she came out with, I think at the end of the summer or sometime in the fall last year. And I might see if the gauge for that and the stitch definition works for it. But it's a short top with a lace feature here on the shoulders, so that might become that. I also have this linen, 100% linen, which is coming across as rather red while I'm filming. It's a little bit more muted than that. Let's see if it comes across less muted anywhere. No, it's coming across as quite electric. Hopefully not for you, but I would say it's more of a burnt red. This is a yarn by PUNTA yarns, which is actually an Uruguayan yarn company, and they actually had a fire many years, not so many years ago, maybe 5 years ago or something, and closed down. And then a couple of years ago, their yarn started showing up again, but only their linen as far as I know. And so I ended up getting this at Wool Time, our local shop, and it's called Rojo Pesca. So sort of like fishing red, and it's 100% linen. And I was also thinking this could be nice for the Este that I just talked about. So we'll see what ends up happening. And I've had this for a longer time, so I would like to get it used up. But that's 100% linen. Another 100% linen yarn that I have that I bought in New York City at Pearl Soho when we went there, like I think 6 years ago. So this has been sitting around for a while. This is a HARBOUR yarn in this beautiful, beautiful brown. Now I think what happened was, so this is a 100% linen as well. They call it their L25-3 linen. I don't know if you can see the, I don't know if that's going to focus. Is it going to focus? This is very much a lace weight, and I started swatching with it, and I sort of realized, I don't know what I'm going to make with this. This is kind of strange. But I actually have some PAONS Grace, which is a fingering sport weight cotton in a similar color. I just couldn't find it the other day when I was stash diving. It's there. It's just choosing not to be found. And I thought, you know what, maybe I will double strand those two, because it's a lovely brown as well. And I've been wanting to make the Natsumi, and I was thinking of using the Grace, and I thought, well, maybe I'll double strand and make the Natsumi out of these two. So we'll see what ends up happening. I'm going to swatch a little bit more, but 100% linen I find can be a little bit of a challenge to find patterns to make with, because linen, it doesn't give you a lot of structure, so it's better to use in garments that are meant to be flowy in some way. At least in my opinion, it's not very good with ribbing, for example, and things like that. So it can be hard sometimes, as much as I love linen, to find projects that actually work well with it. And obviously it lends itself beautifully to things like, doilies, or, things for decorative purposes like tablecloths, or even, if you were so inclined, what do you call that now? Something to put on your bed, like people. My mom used to have one. She had a bed cover that was made out of crochet, and it was beautiful, white. So there's a lot of beautiful things you can do with linen that aren't clothing based. So we'll see what ends up happening with this. One thing that I'm kind of leaning towards casting on immediately is one of these two yarns. I bought 2 sweaters worth of this Katya linen from Wool Time. I seem to have bought a lot of yarn at Wool Time. It is I think it's a 50-50. It's 53 cotton, 47 linen. And I bought sweater quantities in each of these colors at one point. It was on sale. And I got this gray, and I got this beige. And I didn't want to put them together. I've got 2 separate sweater quantities. And I have been thinking about making a second On the Grass by Joji Locatelli, possibly in this beige. I thought that could be really nice, kind of like a little bit of a summer boat neck sweater. And Heidi Kiermaier has come out with a sweater called Sunshine Coast, and I think this is wanting to become the Sunshine Coast. It's a very simple top-down raglan sleeve, very simple, but just has lovely features to it. Like, it's got a wide band here that just make it very clean looking. She uses eyelets every once in a while for increases and stuff like that. So I think that this gray, which is kind of a little bit of a sweatshirt gray, will become that sweater, which is a very simple, laid-back sweater that you'd wear with, jeans or a pair of shorts or something like that. So I'm kind of toying with the idea of starting with that right away, but we'll see. And then I have probably more than a sweater quantity of these 2 yarns. This is the PAONS Grace. I mentioned to you I have brown in it. I have this blue, which is number 1303. It's a lovely blue. And I have white. And I had wanted to make a blue and white striped sailor type boat neck top. And I started, in fact, there's a bunch of them like that were pulled out. I started making one pattern, I can't remember which one. I'll put it down here in the bar, and something about the neckline was just not working out for me. I don't know why. And so I just gave it up. And I've since sort of not found anything. But Isabel Kramer has one called A Hint of Summer. It's just a really simple V-neck type of sweater, and I thought that could be kind of fun. Rather than, I really had my mind set on a boat neck, but I thought, well, maybe a V-neck. So we'll see what ends up happening. But that's there as well. And then last, and this is a weird yarn that I bought at this shop Wool Time here in town. It's kind of a bit of a warehouse shop, and they have an annual tent sale. And they had this bag of silver yarn that I bought. It was very cheap, like very cheap. And this is I think it's almost 100%, 90% viscose and 10% nylon. So viscose is a plant-based yarn, and it's this silver kind of ribbon yarn. And it made a very nice, I think they had a swatch in the store, and it had a very nice drape to it. So we'll see what happens. I just bought it. This was a year ago or so. And I thought it could make a fun sweater that could be a little bit more of a party sweater or something, but I haven't figured out what I want to do with it yet. But I just would show it to you as an example of something that would be more plant-based. Because I checked, and I wanted to check about Rami and those types of things, and they are all different forms. In fact, I think Rami came from the nettle plant. It's just processed a little differently, and viscose is a cellulose fiber of some type. So those are a bunch of my summer fibers. In fact, it's almost everything. The only thing that I'm missing from there really is the Patons Grace and Brown. And then the other yarn that's over there, but we'll see. Maybe I'll put a picture in here. It's a yarn called Skip or Skipper, I believe, and I got it, you know, from some sort of a discount bin at one time. But it's a lot of fun, and I thought a crocheted bag with green along the bottom and gray along the top could be really, really fun. So we'll see. We'll see which way inspiration takes me with all of these wonderful, wonderful yarns. So as of April 1st, if you're ready to cast on, feel free to join in. I'll be creating chatter threads, and I'll create an FO thread as well. Whips are welcome, somebody asked, and that is fine, as long as you're not like just casting off. You know, you've still got some knitting to do, or if there's something that's been sitting in the corner waiting for a while and that you lost a bit of interest in it and you want to pick it back up, that would be great as well. So join me and we'll have some fun conversation, and I so look forward to seeing what people make. And so that is really it for the knitting content. If you are not interested in my chit chat about what's been going on lately, feel free to check in next time. Thank you for joining me. If you do want to stick around, there's going to be some footage today. We've had some fun times. Last week was March break, so it was the week off for kids from school. And I rarely take that week off. We usually try and piecemeal something together for the kids. Now for my son, you know, he's 14 and a half. He's very independent. But my daughter's 11 and not really wanting to go to camps, and I'm not really wanting to put her into camps. And I didn't really want to piecemeal. I thought it would be nice to do some fun stuff. So I decided to take the majority of the week off. I went to work on the Monday. But on the Tuesday, Isla and I went with our friend Holly, who's also a knitting friend, and we went to Park Omega. If you follow me on Instagram, you've seen some of the footage. And we had a great time. It was so much fun. So Park Omega is one of these drive-through types of zoos. I actually have a hard time going to zoos. I usually walk out of them very depressed, so I don't usually go. But this is one of those very open concepts. They have native animals, so not all of the animals are animals that live in this type of climate, and except for the real predators, such as the black bear or the Arctic foxes, the Arctic wolves, all the wolves were in sort of large enclosures. Other animals just roamed around. So you saw elk and deer and wild turkey and wild boars and bison. They were just roaming around. There was a muskox. He was in an enclosure, so I suspect, I don't know if there's more than one. And the moose was also in an enclosure, so I don't know if those are animals that are more prone to erratic behavior. I have no idea. But you essentially drive through. So we drove there. It's about an hour outside of Ottawa. We had lunch in Montebello, which is the town nearby. I think that's where we had lunch. In a lovely place, actually. It was really nice. And then we went to the park and had a blast. You can buy carrots there, but you can also bring carrots. So Holly had brought 2 bags of carrots. I brought a large bag of chopped up carrots, and you can just slowly go through the park and feed animals. So here's a little bit of footage of some elk, I believe, munching on carrots. I hope you enjoy it.
And endless carrot supply.
Munch away, baby.
Oh, what if you do a carrot? Can I feed you a carrot?
Hello. Who wants a carrot?
No,
Who wants a carrot?
he's a long carrot. Baby. Oh, you have a
Look
big
at the beautiful face.
He has a very big face.
Oh.
Whoa.
Oh my goodness. Oh my
Hello,
goodness.
baby.
He's coming in the car. He's coming in
No.
the car. Hello.
No.
And then there was also all kinds of other animals. So I'll just plunk in a few images here of some of the animals that we saw, such as the bison. Here's a little video of the bison. Oh my God, Holly, what are you doing?
Oh, you're on video.
I am on video. I was kind of freaked out by the bison, but they actually tell you not to feed the bison because I think that once you feed them, then you've got 15 bison that are about almost the same size as your little car. You know, maybe not if you had an SUV, but they're large animals. Yeah, so here are some pictures of some of the other animals that we saw along the way. And it was really, really fun. The other thing that they have in the Omega Park is a sugar bush. And it's sugaring season at this time of the year. In fact, it's been a really good sugaring season because we've had a long period of minus Celsius temperatures at night and plus Celsius temperatures during the day, and that's what you need to get sap running. It needs to be warm enough during the day but cold enough at night. If it's too cold, the sap stops running, and if it's too hot, the sap stops running. And we've had a really long year, and so friends of mine who have maple trees, they're having a hard time keeping up with the sap collection. So it's been a really, really good year. So anyway, we went to the little sugar bush there, and so I'm going to show you some of the footage of the maple trees with the buckets, because basically they drill a hole into the tree and then they have a bucket hanging there, and the sap falls or drips into the bucket, and they collect that, and then they cook it down to turn it into maple syrup. But another thing that they do, which is a really typical thing, I think, in all maple syrup making areas. I'm sure it feels to me like it's a very French Canadian thing, but I don't know if other areas do it. They make what they call sugar on snow. In French, it's called tire. And essentially what they do is they heat up the maple syrup to a certain temperature and cook it I think it's just heating it to a certain temperature. I've never made it myself, so I don't know how. And then you take some nice fresh snow. So you don't want snow that has had dogs on it or people walking around. So you want some nice, clean, fresh snow, and you pour the maple syrup on, and it gets cold, but then you can roll it up on a stick and eat it. So I'm going to put in a little bit of that footage in here because it was absolutely delightful. Holly took a video of me and Isla getting the sugar on snow. And it is so delicious. If you like maple syrup, it's really wonderful. And unfortunately, it's one of those things you can only enjoy at this time of the year. I mean, yeah, because you need snow. So yeah, and then in the video, you'll hear some typical sort of old style French Canadian music and the type of cabin. And if you could smell, you would smell the flavors of smoke and maple, and it's absolutely wonderful. So I hope you'll enjoy that.
Oh, 35, presque 35 secondes.
Okay, so we'll just wait a little bit.
Ouais, ça c'est...
Just stick it in.
Ça prend environ 40 litres faire 1 litre de sirop.
Oh, I did this wrong. I was seeing because there was a
I think we need to wait a tiny bit more. It's a little bit. There we go.
Là, oui, le sirop, on peut la tirer comme vous voulez.
that cool down.
Le sirop, c'est 219 degrés.
Yay!
And then
235, 236. Ouais, environ 48, 48. Oh,
so yeah, so that was our trip to Omega Park, which was so much fun. It was just a lovely, lovely day. I have to say, the last week or so with that and with our subsequent trip to Toronto, and last night I went to a concert, which was oodles of fun. It's just been really great. After January and February, which were, as I've mentioned before, kind of intense and a little bit trying around here, it was just nice to have some levity. It was great to do some fun things that just, you know, warmed your heart and brought joy to your spirit. So it's been really great. So after Omega, we went to, Isla and I specifically, left on Thursday. Wednesday was a quiet day. Thursday, we left for Toronto to visit my friend Dana, who lives there. Dana and Isla, when Dana was living in Ottawa, Dana would take Isla out a little bit when she was younger, and Isla just adores Dana. So I was like, hey, what about a trip to Toronto? So we went, and we had a wonderful time. Toronto is a big city. It's a great city, though. I really enjoy Toronto. And they've got some fun stuff. So my friend lives in the area called Roncesvalles, which is right next to High Park, which is kind of like a little central park that they have in the middle of the city. And they have a zoo. So Isla and I walked around there, but I didn't take any footage. But again, they were all animals that could live mostly. They only had one type of animal that was put away, the capybaras, I think. They're a kind of rodent. But all the other animals were around. So there were reindeer and bison and yak, and which was really cool. It was cool to see the yak because I've never seen yak, and I don't think I've ever knit with yak either, so I'm going to have to make that a priority. And they had mountain goats or mountain sheep and different types of animals, so that was really fun. But the highlight was, and some of the food was a highlight, we went to Mamafuko, which is a famous chain of restaurants. I wouldn't say chain, it's the chef who has a series of restaurants all over the world. I think there's some in Australia, New York City, and Chicago, different places. So we went to Mamafuko, which is that one is a noodle house, sort of a ramen house. And then we went to the aquarium. in Toronto, Ripley's Aquarium, which was, I think, inaugurated about 7 years ago. So it's a fairly new aquarium, and it's really fabulous. Really, really well put together, and the kind of place you could just spend hours. And it's actually open until about 11 o'clock at night, apparently. So you can go in the evening as well. During the day, it was packed when we went. We went on Friday of March break, so all the kids in Ontario are off, and everybody's at the aquarium. So it was really, really, really packed, which was mostly okay, except that the octopus was so busy and moving around, but everybody was moving around with him, so I wasn't able to get decent footage of that, but he was fascinating, and it would have been nice for there to be less people to be able to really enjoy the octopus because he was just really fascinating. But they had a wonderful jellyfish exhibit with the jellyfish just moving around, and they had different kinds of jellyfish. They had some wonderful Australian spotted jellyfish that were just beautiful. They had wonderful seahorses that were lovely. They had fabulous fish exhibits, and they had it divided off into the different regions. So anyway, I'll just add a couple of clips here for your viewing pleasure and just the visuals. So enjoy that.
Pretty cool looking, eh? They're fighting. Look at them, they're fighting. He's alive.
How is he still alive?
What do you mean, how is he still alive? Well, humans can fight without one dying, right?
There are sharks everywhere.
Wow.
So you see, tortoises have little hands. Look, like, oh, look at the turtle. They're like marshmallows. Look at that one.
I think they look like it's cozy. Outer space. That's why it's called jelly. Painted jellies.
So there you go. That was my last week. And then last night I went to see, I wouldn't call them local because one I think lives near Kingston and one in Peterborough, which are towns a little ways away from here. But there are actually three of them, but I've only ever seen two of them perform. They're called Shisham and Lotus, and they do kind of, I'm not quite sure what category of music you would put them in, but they play sort of old-time songs with banjos and fiddles and some made-up instruments. And they're really, really fun to see. They're very funny. They make music with like everything. It's just, they're just a real pleasure to watch. They're really entertaining. So I went to see them perform last night with a couple of friends in a very unusual venue. It's called itself a bar, but it turned out that it was the basement of someone's house that he is trying to get shows in, and he doesn't have a liquor license because it's not a proper bar, so you can bring your own alcohol if you want. He's got some there, but he won't sell it to you, but he'll serve it to you. And it was an unusual venue, so it was very small, very intimate, and super fun to watch these guys. So I'll just add a short clip here so that you can see what they're all about. If you happen to be in Ireland or in the Netherlands, they are actually going to those two locations in April. They said last night that they hadn't updated their website yet, but if this interests you at all, they're just really fun, and they're going to be going to at least 3 locations in Ireland. I'm not 100% sure where in the Netherlands, but check them out because it'll be a couple of hours worth of joy. Like we just laughed and smiled and clapped and stomped for a couple of hours last night. So here are a couple of little clips from Shisham and Lotus.
Well, now, I dropped by my friends last night for some WWED. And he said, man, you don't have no cash for an SMOKE. Lord, you must have. You must have. Down in your pocket, you must have. Stop to call money or you can't walk in. Oh, the cuckoo, she's a pretty bird. And she warbles as she flies, but she never sings cuckoo till the first day of July. Gonna build me a log cabin on the mountain so high, so I can see my little Looney as she goes riding by.
So there you go. It's been a busy last couple of weeks for me, but it's been a really fun couple of weeks, and I felt like it brought joy and variety, which was kind of what I was looking for this year. So it really felt good. We are planning on going to another sugar bush in a couple of weeks with some friends. That'll be really fun. And yeah. I'm back because my husband came home. You know, less distractions today. There's no cat in sight. She's over there sleeping on the sofa very, very quietly. And she was rambunctious earlier, and my son did wake up in the middle of the podcast and yell out, "Mom!" So I had to pause there and get over my irritation. And but my daughter has been enjoying some quiet time upstairs, so it's been a little bit of a distraction-free episode, mostly, except that now my husband came home. So anyway, I hope some people, I know some people got some good laughs out of all the distractions last week. I just thought, come on, people, can I just podcast, please? Anyway, I think we've come to the end. I think I have said everything I wanted to share with you today. One last little thing. We have a Ravelry group, which I didn't mention at the beginning at all, called Little Big Knits. And in there you'll find the show notes for today, and you'll also find a thread called coupon codes, not coupon copes, coupon codes. And Sue of the Two Tangled Skein podcast, who also has an Etsy shop called the Tangled Skein CA, has added a coupon for our group. So if you're interested in going to her shop, I'm afraid I did not bring the cat stitch markers because she's got those wonderful cat stitch markers that I showed you guys last time. So go ahead and grab the coupon code before you go there. And there's also a coupon code from Frog Peak Creations. So go ahead and look in there if you're interested in either of those shops. And I think that's all I have for you today. I hope you're well. I hope this podcast has been of some entertainment. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, whatever it is that you plan on doing. I will be editing the podcast, of course, and I'm gonna try and wash this sweater again. Let's see what happens. I've also got a whole bunch of other laundry that has to get done. And tomorrow I have to make a gigantic pot of soup for a last little attempt at some fundraising for my son's trip to Ireland. So 2 of us are making a gigantic pot of soup. I'm going to be making a red lentil curry soup, and I'm not sure what the other person is making, which we'll be selling after the church service to raise money. It's by donation. So anyway, I'll be doing that tonight or first thing tomorrow morning, haven't quite decided, and hopefully getting some knitting time, starting my tender in the mohair and the fondant fiber lace weight, which I'm very excited about, and enjoying the weekend. So take care, everybody, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.